welcome back to Tom's World Scale Model Series. In this episode, we unbox Meng's SDKFZ-173 Jagdpanther Tank Destroyer. If you enjoy programming on scale modeling, then show your support by subscribing to this channel. Leave us a comment, like, dislike, or share the video with friends. Clicking the notification bell gives you alerts when we post new content. Or visit the channel Tom's World for a friendly visit for a complete list of all our videos. As World War II progressed, the German army faced an increasing tide of Allied armor, so in October 1942, an order was issued to mount the powerful 88 L71 tank rifle on a mobile chassis. Such a vehicle would surpass even the mighty Tiger I in destructive potential. 3 designs were approved for production, but hands down the Jagdpanther was the perfect expression of the kind of aggressive tank hunter the Germans so desperately needed. So stick with us as we unbox Meng's masterpiece rendition of what many consider to be the top tank destroyer of World War II. Hey fellas, welcome back and thank you so much for stopping by and visiting. We've got another magnificent kit to look at. This is Meng's SDKFZ-173 Jagdpanther Asverlang G1. This is going to be kit number Tango Sierra 039, released in 2018 as a new tool, and today's price 64 Canadian or about 50 US dollars. And there's our box dimensions so we get a sense of how big the actual product is. So the sole purpose for the Jagdpanther was as a mobile platform for the awesome 88mm Pak 43-3 L71 gun. It's the same gun as found more or less in the even bigger Tiger II. This thing could hurl a 10.4 kilogram or 23-pound armor-piercing cap round at 1,000 meters or 3,300 feet per second. Once fired, just 3 seconds for the projectile to hit a target at 3 kilometers. The Jagdpanther is typical of the German army tradition of modifying production tank chassis into turretless Sturmgeschütz-style configurations. In the Jagdpanther, designers built upon the superb Panther chassis and simply extended the sloped sides up to create a casement. By the time the Jagdpanther was produced, the kinks had been worked out of the Panther platform, and with an improved engine and other modifications, the Germans had a real force multiplier design. The Nashorn and Ferdinand Elephant were also produced as a response to the initial requirement, but it was the Jagdpanther that struck the perfect balance between armor, mobility, and lethal firepower. The Jagdpanther or Hunting Panther is more than just a slick propaganda moniker. Unlike American tank destroyer doctrine at the time, which required formations to operate behind the main line of action in static ambush positions, the Jagdpanther was designed for aggressive operations and was expected to drive at the enemy alongside with the advancing tank spearheads. The Germans made modifications throughout their vehicle production runs, and the Jagdpanther was no exception. The box cover depicts a later version, which is distinguishable by the large bolts on the gun mantlet liner. The early version has a smooth welded-on flange. Also, earlier models had 2 driver vision slots. At first, the Germans plated over the outermost slot as depicted here, and later the second vision slot was removed altogether. Earlier versions also had a single-piece gun barrel, whereas later vehicles had this 2-part gun sleeve. As we'll see, the kit includes parts to depict these various options. For example, we also get a number of exhaust pipe configurations to choose from. Early versions of the Jagdpanther also had Zimmerit anti-mine paste applied to its outer surfaces, but the Germans discontinued its application in September-October of 1944, so if we decide to depict a later version, we can dispense with the Zimmerit as depicted on the box top. We do get the finished model's dimensions on the box, and with that crazy long gun, the finished model approaches almost a foot long. So before we dive into the box, let's have a look at what other manufacturers have released Jagdpanther kits. No fewer than 13 manufacturers have produced 1/35th scale Jagdpanther kits. There's too many to review in detail, so we'll focus on just a few. Going nostalgic all the way back to 1962, kit number 3, Tamiya's so-called Rommel tank. A motorized version soon followed after. These kits seem laughable by today's standards, but they're an interesting example of a Tamiya's product heritage. Tamiya's 1996 new tool, Kit 35203, is perhaps best known to armor builders. This kit is typical Tamiya with beautiful casting, superb engineering, and low-stress assembly. Rubber band tracks, 2-part split barrel, and lack of clear and photo etch parts slightly prejudices the kit against modern releases, but its relative low price of $38 US make it a solid choice. Italeri has 3 boxings. It appears all of them are releases of the same sprues, with the early ones priced at an affordable $35. The kits are older generation and rudimentary, with a styrene split 2-part barrel, melt-together tracks, and no clear parts. We can also find this kit as a rebox by Zvezda models. The newest reboxing, Kit 6564, contains figures with a commensurate price increase to $46. Revell has released 2 boxings, one depicting the early version and the other has parts to build the late Command vehicle version. These kits are roughly comparable to the Italeri releases and are fairly basic, but as an additional feature, individual track links are contained in the boxes. I wasn't able to find these kits for sale at my preferred hobby suppliers, but like Revell's other kits in this category, these likely sell for in and around the $35 price range. As always, Dragon hits us with a tidal wave of product releases with 14 boxings through the Dragon, DML, and Platts brands, and here are most of them. It's interesting to note that some of these releases have the Zimmerit texture cast onto the parts. Looking briefly at the newest 2019 release, which is a great example of what we get with these amazing Dragon kits. We get a choice of superstructure with or without molded on Zimmerit. We also find a mountain of parts and every extra you can think of, including torsion bar suspension, one-piece barrel, clear periscopes, photo etch grills, and soft styrene DS tracks. These are deluxe kits for advanced builders and come at a premium price of up to $75 or more. Takom has released 4 boxings starting in 2018. These kits also feature molded on Zimmerit and full interiors for those modelers who crave ultra detail and long challenging builds. Takom kits are known for their crisp casting, superb engineering, innovative one-piece slide molded barrels, length and link tracks, and PE. Kit 2125 X-Ray, which is a limited edition, is devoid of interior details, but it comes with this very cool train flat car which really sets it apart from its rivals. These are epic kits for advanced modelers and are priced in and around the $65 price range. Ryefield released 2 kits in 2019 and these are comparable with the Dragon and Takom releases. High part counts, slide molded barrels, PE, torsion bar suspension, and individual articulated track links are features. Kit Romeo Mike 5022 also has parts to build up a full interior. Like the Dragon and Takom releases, these kits are for advanced modelers who enjoy epic, longer builds that ooze with detail and complexity. These are premium kits and carry a commensurate price of about $65 today. Our Meng kit falls somewhere between the Tamiya release and the Dragon Takom Ryefield products in terms of complexity and price, but without compromising on detail, engineering, and fine casting. Also due to its moderate price, all these aspects make it a perfect choice for our Jagdpanther project. Time for the big unboxing, here we go! I must have cracked hundreds of kit boxes, but that pang of excitement just never seems to go away. That's why we say so many models, so little time. So the model may not be packed as shown here since I rummaged through the boxes before recording. We've got a total of 975 parts, but we don't use them all depending on the variant we build. We've got 10 sprues, 9 opaque ones, and 1 clear, along with some other various and sundries. So let's get everything out of the box and see what we're working with. The kit comes with a black and white instruction booklet and a glossy full-color paint guide. There's too many pages to go through in detail, but here are some of the salient points. Kinda hard to see, but we get a choice of building 4 variants. It's illustrated better in the paint guide, with 2 early versions and 2 late, all without Zimmerit. And we do see polycaps here. We'll look at those in a moment. No bathtub style hull here, it's all built up with separate parts. We also get quite a few holes to drill throughout the build, so keep your pin vise handy. We even get a variety of swing arms appropriate for the different variants. Hard to see once the model is assembled, but great attention to detail. And here we get some interior details like the engine cooling fans. It's a nice touch for contest building. The jack buildup is reminiscent of the way Dragon builds up their tank jacks, with a total of 9 parts. And here we see the interleafed road wheel arrangement. And yes, not only individual track links, but individual guide horns. 174 track links and 348 guide horns to contend with. Here we're drilling more holes and we have to pay attention to which variant we're building to get the correct hole placement. There are a few very tiny PE parts to attach and some of them are depicted here. And here are some of the exhaust options depending on the variant we build. Generally we see a lot of detail and many small parts to attach. Again, depending on the variant, our gun swab holder gets placed in various locations on the hull. Other than the driver's slit, all vision devices are located on the roof of the vehicle. The periscopes are clear, and we'll show how to paint these in our build episode. We get a choice of mounting the hull machine gun or a plug, and with the latter we get a photo etched chain. We do get a detailed gun breech, which is excellent if we decide to depict our hatches open. We get 3 mantlets, the smooth one being the early version. And here are the shirts and side skirts, which are optional. And finally, we get the early 1-piece and later 2-piece gun barrels, so again we must pay attention to which variant we're building so we mount the appropriate gun. We get a small decal sheet in the box, markings for 4 vehicles and of course our Balkenkreuz. The number groups have quite a bit of carrier film, so we'll have to cut close to the numbers when applying them. We also get a small clear sprue. This tiny piece is the formation light, and here's our scissor telescope. The plastic is exceptionally clear. In our paint and weathering episode, we'll look at how to paint these so they look very realistic. We're provided with 2 lengths of metal braided wire for our towing cables, and vinyl poly caps, which are used to attach the road wheels. Tamiya used to be the only other manufacturer to use poly caps, but we're seeing them in Meng kits too. A beautiful, fairly large PE sheet is also included. We can see it's beautifully detailed and delicate. The engine grills are see-through. We can see how tiny and delicate some of the parts are in comparison to my finger. This is the chain for the bow machine gun plug. And we also get what appears to be a star antenna, which are usually found on command vehicles, although I don't think the instructions even mention it. We also get thin metal optional shirts and side skirts. These are a nice feature since they're scale and thickness, and look better to my eye than plastic skirts that we usually find in more simple kits. The very tiny sprue gates also make removing the parts and dressing them a lot easier. Since there's so many parts in this kit, we'll look at just a few of them to get a sense of the detail and casting. We get 4 gun mounting flanges in all slightly different. This is an example of the early version. The edges are smooth and the assembly was welded onto the hull. And this is the late version, distinguishable by the mounting bolts. If we look closely, we can see the texturing, which gives us a realistic rough cast metal look. Here we see the finely cast spring detail on the hull bump stops. Along with the near microscopic PE parts we saw earlier, there are also a few small plastic parts to contend with. A good pair of tweezers and steady hands will definitely come in handy when assembling this kit. We also get 2 so-called Saukampf or pigheads mantlets to choose from. These were adopted by the Germans late in the war and were also used on some of the Stromgeschütz variants. And again, we see the nice cast metal texturing. We also get nice detail on the inner hatch surfaces, which is important if we depict the hatches open. Here's some nice detail on the gun breech. We also get 2 different muzzle brakes, which are slide molded. This is an excellent design since it alleviates seams, which we get with most older castings that split the barrel long ways. Speaking of the barrel, we get 2 versions, the single piece and the 2-piece with the shroud. The barrels are a solid piece, which I prefer over the 2-part split style. We also get a nicely detailed gun stem, which is mostly hidden within the fighting compartment. If our hatches are open, this adds nice detail to the exposed interior areas. The tools are a great example of the excellent detail and fine casting we find in Meng kits. Note the hollow buckle and crispness of the molding. Even the final drives are beautifully detailed, complete with cast metal texture. This is a great little detail. Notice the wire that runs from the lamp mount. Most kits omit this wire, but this is a great example of the amazing attention to detail that we find in Meng kits. And more examples of slide molding in the towing cable loops. Most manufacturers give us a slit to slip the wire or string into, but this arrangement is more accurate, realistic, and easier to assemble. And here are the large road wheels, which along with the torsion bar suspension gave the Panther and Jagdpanther an exceptionally smooth ride. And we actually even get different swing arm versions depending on the variant we build. They even molded these guards into the sprues so the mounting pegs don't get broken off during shipping. Another nice touch are these engine cooling fans. Because we can see through the PE engine grill covers, this gives us some detail behind them so the engine compartment doesn't look empty. More excellent attention to detail is the little bar at the end of the exhaust pipe, which prevents grenades from being stuffed inside by the enemy. And these engine intake covers are another example of the premium casting found in this kit. No flash at all, and we can see more of the casting metal texturing. And that brings us to the tracks. They're individual links, beautifully cast and detailed. And finally, the dreaded separate guide horns. Admittedly, this might be a deal breaker for some people, since there are a total of 174 track links and 348 guide horns to assemble. And that'll do it for this episode. Check back soon as we undertake the building and painting of our Jagdpanther project. If you haven't already, why not subscribe to the channel? Otherwise, leave us a like, dislike, share the video, or just grumble in the comments. Or drop by the channel Tom's World for a complete list of all our entertaining and educational videos. In the meantime, make sure your gun is swabbed and your sights are aligned. Stay well and all the best.